Chosen one, you've been carrying a weight no one sees. A depth no one asks about. A knowing that isolates you in rooms full of people, and you've wondered more than once if something is wrong with you. If maybe you think too much, feel too much, see too much. You've watched them celebrate shallow things while you wrestle with questions that have no easy answers. You've listened to conversations that feel like static while your mind is composing symphonies in the silence. And the exhaustion isn't from the work you do. It's from pretending the work isn't lonely. They don't understand you. And you've stopped expecting them to. You've tried. You've dimmed your light in conversations, simplified your thoughts, laughed at things that weren't funny, stayed quiet when you had the answer. Because every time you spoke from the real place, the deep place, you were met with blank stares. Discomfort, distance, or worse, they made you feel like you were too much, too intense, too serious, too different. So you learned to split yourself in half. The version they can handle, and the version you live with alone. But here's what they'll never tell you. Here's what no one prepared you for. Intelligent souls aren't misunderstood by accident. You were designed to be set apart. Your mind, your awareness, your ability to see beyond the surface. It didn't come from this world. It came from a realm where truth matters more than comfort. Where depth is the language. Where silence holds more meaning than noise. You were given a consciousness that doesn't fit here, because you were never meant to blend in here. You were meant to break things open here. And the isolation you feel, it's not a malfunction. It's a mark. The people who misunderstand you aren't your enemies. They're simply not coded for the frequency you operate on. You process differently. You see layers they don't even know exist. When they see a conversation, you see motive, wound, pattern, and outcome. When they see success, you see sacrifice, timing, and cost. When they see coincidence, you see design. And that doesn't make you better than them. It makes you responsible for something they're not carrying. You were given sight because something in you was trusted with it. But sight without community is a kind of crucifixion. And you've been on that cross for years. You've loved people who couldn't love you back at your level. Not because they didn't want to, but because they couldn't reach where you are. You've given wisdom that was dismissed, only to watch them learn it the hard way a year later. You've been the one they come to when they're broken, but never the one they celebrate when they're whole. You've held space for others, while your own space stayed empty. And you've done it without applause, without acknowledgement, without proof that any of it mattered. But it did, and someone saw it. The ones who misunderstood you were never your assignment. They were your training ground. Every time you were overlooked, you were being prepared to lead without needing validation. Every time your intelligence intimidated someone, you were learning how to carry power without weaponizing it. Every time you were too much for the room, you were being shaped for a room that doesn't exist yet. A room you're going to build. A table you're going to set. A frequency you're going to hold that will finally make sense to the people who are searching for it right now. You've been in exile because you're being entrusted with a kingdom. And God doesn't explain that in the moment. He doesn't send a newsletter while you're sitting in the loneliness. He doesn't justify why you had to be misunderstood while everyone else got to be celebrated. He just keeps you, hides you, deepens you, and trusts that when the noise fades and you're standing in the silence with nothing but your own thoughts, you'll discover something most people never find. You'll discover that your intelligence isn't just a gift. It's a weapon, a key, a bridge, and it was never supposed to make you popular. It was supposed to make you dangerous to every system built on ignorance. They misunderstood you because they benefit from you staying small. Your questions disrupt their comfort. Your awareness threatens their illusions. Your refusal to settle exposes their compromise. And instead of rising to meet you, they tried to make you feel guilty for seeing clearly. They called you negative when you were being honest. They called you complicated when you were being thorough. They called you distant when you were protecting your energy. And you absorbed that. You believed, even for a moment, that maybe you should be more like them. Simpler, louder, less aware. But that version of you would be a lie. And liars don't build legacies. You were built for truth. The kind that costs something. The kind that doesn't get likes. The kind that sits in your chest like a stone until you finally speak it, and when you do, it rearranges the room. That's the intelligence you carry. Not the kind that wins arguments. The kind that shifts atmospheres. The kind that makes people feel seen for the first time in their lives. The kind that doesn't need to be loud, because it's already undeniable. And the reason it's been so lonely is because you've been holding a frequency no one around you was tuned to yet. But the dial is turning. The season is shifting. And the people who are supposed to understand you, the ones who will meet you at your depth, who will match your energy, who will finally see you and not flinch, they're already on their way. You won't have to audition for them. You won't have to dim yourself. You won't have to explain why you think the way you think or feel the way you feel. They'll just know, because they're cut from the same cloth, marked by the same fire, assigned to the same mission. And when you meet them, you'll realize why everyone else had to misunderstand you. Because if you had been accepted earlier, you would have stopped searching. If you had been celebrated sooner, you would have settled. If they had understood you back then, you wouldn't have gone deeper. You wouldn't have developed the discernment you have now. You wouldn't have built the strength to stand alone. You wouldn't have learned that your worth isn't determined by who gets you. It's determined by who sent you, and God sent you into a world that wasn't ready. On purpose, not to punish you, but to position you. You've been walking through a wilderness while a table was being prepared. You've been sitting in silence while a stage was being built. You've been misunderstood in private, so you could be undeniable in public. And every person who dismissed you, every room that rejected you, every moment you felt invisible, it was all setting up the contrast, so that when you finally step into the place that was designed for you, no one will be able to deny that something divine orchestrated it. They'll see you and wonder how they missed it. But you'll know. You were never missing. You were just hidden, set apart, refined in the fire of being too much and not enough at the same time. And that fire didn't burn you up. It burned everything false away, everything performative, everything that needed their approval to exist. Now you know who you are even when no one's watching. You know what you carry even when no one's asking. You know your value even when no one's celebrating. And that makes you one of the most dangerous people alive. Because you can't be controlled by applause. You can't be manipulated by rejection. You can't be dimmed by misunderstanding. You've already survived the worst of it. The isolation, the silence, the wondering if you'd ever be seen. And you're still thinking, still feeling, still seeing, still believing that all of this meant something. And it did, because intelligent souls aren't misunderstood forever. Just long enough to become unshakable. And now you're standing at a threshold you didn't even know you were approaching. Something in the atmosphere has changed. You can feel it even if you can't name it yet. The weight you've been carrying is starting to shift. Not because the load got lighter, but because you got stronger. Strong enough to realize that what you thought was a burden was actually a building process. Every misunderstood moment was a brick. Every lonely night was mortar. Every time someone walked away because you were too deep, too aware, too much, you were being constructed into something that can't be shaken by shallow winds. They're going to need what you built in the dark. And the strangest part is this: you're not angry anymore. You're not even hurt. There's a place you've arrived at internally where their misunderstanding no longer defines your reality. You've stopped waiting for permission to be who you are. You've stopped editing your thoughts to make them comfortable. You've stopped apologizing for the way your mind works. And that shift, that internal severing from the need to be understood by people who aren't equipped to understand you, that's the shift that changes everything. Because once you stop performing for an audience that was never yours, you become available to the assignment that is. You've been preparing for rooms you haven't entered yet, conversations you haven't had, moments that will require every ounce of the discernment you developed in the silence. The intelligence you carry isn't ornamental, it's operational. You were given the ability to see because something in the future requires that sight. You were given the capacity to feel deeply because someone in your path is going to need that depth to survive their own wilderness. You were made incompatible with surface level living because you're being positioned to dismantle surface level systems. And they misunderstood you because if they had celebrated you too early, you would have stayed in their system. You would have made peace with their limitations. You would have built your life around their approval. And the thing you were created to build would have never been born. So God let them misunderstand you. He let them overlook you. He let you sit in rooms where no one asked you the right questions. He let you love people who couldn't love you back with the same intensity. Not because he was withholding blessing, but because he was withholding distraction. Every person who didn't choose you was actually a protection from choosing wrong. Every opportunity that didn't open was a door that would have trapped you. Every season of waiting was a season of becoming. And what you're becoming doesn't have a precedent in your bloodline. You're not repeating a pattern. You're breaking one. The intelligence you carry didn't come from your environment. It came through you despite your environment. You were planted in soil that wasn't supposed to produce what you are. And yet here you stand, thinking thoughts that no one taught you, seeing connections no one showed you, operating with a level of awareness that didn't come from a classroom or a certificate. It came from the other side, the realm where things are known before they're learned, where truth is recognized, not studied. You've been accessing something most people don't even believe exists. And that's why they couldn't understand you. You were speaking a language they haven't been taught yet. You were referencing a reality they can't see. You were operating from a knowing that doesn't need evidence because it is the evidence. And when you tried to bring that into their world, into their conversations, into their logic, it didn't translate. Not because you failed, but because some things can't be reduced. Some truths can't be simplified. Some depths can't be made shallow just to make others comfortable. You were never supposed to make it easy for them. You were supposed to make them reach. But most of them didn't. And that's not your failure either. You can't force someone to go deep if they're committed to staying on the surface. You can't make someone value truth if they're more interested in comfort. You can't convince someone that you matter if they've already decided you're too complicated to deal with. And you spent years trying, years explaining yourself, defending yourself, proving yourself, until you finally realize that the people who are meant for you don't require a presentation. They just recognize you. And that recognition is coming. It's already in motion. The ones who will understand you won't need a manual. They won't need you to dim your light or slow your thoughts or apologize for your intensity. They'll meet you there, at the depth, at the frequency, at the level of consciousness you've been holding alone. And when they do, you'll understand why no one else could. Because those people weren't built for this. But these people are. They've been in their own wilderness, their own misunderstanding, their own isolation, and they're coming out of it the same way you are. Refined, focused, unshakable, ready. Ready for the collaboration you've been praying for without knowing how to name it. Because intelligent souls don't just find each other by accident. They're assigned to each other, strategically placed in each other's path at the exact moment when both are ready. Not when both are perfect, but when both are prepared. And you've been prepared in ways you can't even articulate yet. The years of being misunderstood didn't just teach you patience. They taught you discernment. They taught you how to protect your energy, how to recognize who's for you and who's just curious, how to move in rooms that don't celebrate you without losing yourself, how to stay soft in a world that tried to make you hard. That's not common. That's supernatural. Most people who go through what you've been through come out bitter, closed, defensive, cynical. They build walls so high that no one can get in, not even the ones who are supposed to. But you didn't do that. You stayed open. You stayed feeling. You stayed believing that love still exists, that connection is still possible, that someone somewhere is searching for exactly what you are. And that faith, that refusal to let the pain make you cold, that's what kept the door open for what's coming next. Because the next season doesn't reward the loudest. It rewards the faithful, the ones who stayed true when no one was watching, the ones who kept developing when no one was celebrating, the ones who kept believing when all the evidence said give up. You've been that person. In the quiet, in the background, in the margins of other people's stories. And now your story is about to become the foreground. Not because you forced it, but because it's time. The season of being misunderstood is closing, and the season of being undeniable is opening. And you're going to feel it before you see it. There's going to be a shift in your spirit, a knowing that something has ended and something else has begun. You'll wake up one day and the heaviness will be gone. Not because circumstances changed overnight, but because the assignment changed, the posture changed. The grace for that season lifted because the grace for the next season arrived. And you won't have to convince yourself. You'll just know. The same way you knew you were different. The same way you knew you were called. The same way you knew that all of this, the loneliness, the misunderstanding, the waiting, all of it was leading somewhere. It was leading here, to this moment, to this turning point, where everything you've carried in private is about to be revealed in public, where every seed you planted in silence is about to break through the soil, where every truth you held on to when everyone else let go is about to prove itself. And the people who misunderstood you won't be able to deny it. Not because you're going to prove them wrong, but because the fruit will speak for itself. The life you build, the impact you make, the people you reach, the legacy you leave, it won't need a defense. It will be the defense, and you won't have to say, "I told you so." Your existence will say it. Because intelligent souls don't get the last word by arguing. They get it by becoming. By walking into the fullness of who they were created to be, and letting that reality rewrite every narrative that tried to diminish them. You're not here to convince anyone. You're here to complete an assignment, and the ones who were supposed to walk with you will. The ones who weren't will watch from a distance and finally understand what they missed. But by then, you'll be so far into your purpose that their opinion won't even register. You'll be too busy building what they said couldn't be built, reaching who they said couldn't be reached, becoming who they said you'd never become. And that's the victory, not revenge. Fulfillment, not proving them wrong, proving God right, that he knew what he was doing when he made you this way, that the intelligence wasn't a mistake, that the depth wasn't a disorder, that the misunderstanding wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something they don't have language for yet. But they will, because you're about to show them.